I am Neville Aga, and today I'm going to talk about Cisco Catalyst Switching. I'm going to talk about why Cisco. Why do so many businesses partner with Cisco? What are the innovations that Cisco does that make it a more compelling product in the marketplace? Why are we the leader in switching? Well, to answer those questions, I'm going to talk about Cisco switching from a top-down approach, starting at the business requirements, working my way to mapping technology requirements to business requirements, and then talking about the innovations that Cisco does that map to those technology requirements. If I do this right, you will understand at the end that buying into a Cisco architecture gets you benefits beyond total cost of ownership. All right. First, I want to put to you that Cisco's true value is not just in what we make, but rather it's in what we make possible. Let's start with just a widget. If you are the IT director at a corporation and you have to procure a number of widgets each year, you can choose to procure them through Company A or Company B. It's a common widget available often in the marketplace. Kind of like switching. Now, Company A has this particular widget. They have 33,000 retail locations, and Company B has 17,000 locations. Where do you buy your widget from? A or B? Let me give you some more information. That's probably not enough information for you. How about Company A has 33,000 locations and has been in business for 71 years, where Company B has only about half as many locations and been in business only half as long. Maybe are you leaning a little bit more to buying your widget from Company A because it's more stable? Maybe you don't have all the information. What other information do you want? Typically, through the business, they want to know about price. All right. Well, Company A sells theirs for $1.39 a widget, while Company B sells it for $1.95 per widget. You're going, aha, I want to get my stuff from Company A. Better, more mature, more dependable, and less price. In fact, this is a real widget. This is a pure academic exercise, and in 2013, Company A sold $1.5 billion worth of these widgets, whereas Company B sold $12 billion. Outsold them 7-1. Now, without giving away what the widget is, what these companies are, I want you to hold off of that and think about this for a minute. Okay, getting back to why Catalyst switching, it's all driven, of course, from the IT, from the business requirement, right? If IT is not developing and delivering some sort of competitive advantage to the overall business, then IT's function is not doing the right thing. So what are the business requirements? What are those business leaders, those CEOs asking for today? Number one, mobility. Mobility, mobility, mobility. The mobile networks are exploding, and if you talk to business leaders at the very top echelons, they'll even forget that they have wired networks, and they'll go to their IT directors and go, you know what, I want a pure mobile network, I don't want anything. And then the IT director goes, yeah, that's great, but these things, these access points actually need to plug into something, don't forget about that. But mobility is number one for a business leader. And then number two for business leaders are thinking, how can I easily offer secure applications, wired access, wireless access, but secure for whatever new apps I want to roll out. Finally, they are wondering too, they want to do purchases not just for short-term needs, but are they investing in architectures that offer simplicity and they're future-proof for scale? So those are the business top of mind. Well, what are the technical challenges to achieving those business objectives? Well, when Cisco looks at it, we break it down into 4 categories. From an operations standpoint, first, talking about cost of ownership, total cost of ownership, initial cost of ownership. Really, in all these large purchases of IT systems, the real cost ends up becoming things like repetitive operation tasks, manual provisioning. Personnel often is a lot more of a cost to the business than the technology itself. So any innovations that you can do that reduce my manual labor save me 10x what it might cost to procure the system in the first place. Security, I have to make sure that my data is confidential. I have to enforce the company security policy. or else it's a non-starter. Whatever discussion you have, whatever widget you have is a non-starter. Scalability. As we move into the next phase of the internet, and if Cisco, as Cisco has labeled this the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything or the Internet of Things, if we are going to get 10x, 100x more connected devices 10 years from now than there are today, can these networks really scale for the amount of sensors that are going around everywhere? And visibility. Finally, if you do have this large network, prove to me that the network isn't the cause of my problem. We don't want this finger pointing thing where application team says, the network has caused slowness in my new, PeopleSoft app that I've forced to roll out, and the network guys are going, no, it's really the PeopleSoft app is written poorly. You got to get out of that whole mindset. What tools can you give me to get out of that whole mindset? Well, at Cisco, we have a set of innovations that support those pain points. Tools that we've put in the marketplace recently include instant access, converged access, TrustSec for security, application visibility and control to let people know what's going on in the network to avoid that finger pointing I just talked about, smart operations to reduce TCO, and hardware innovations. A lot of custom ASICs that Cisco spends that nobody else in the industry has the knowledge or the depth to actually be able to do. We believe that we will supply customers with an integrated architectural approach that solves their critical business requirements. And that unique approach brings together application-specific integrated circuits, software, hardware, services, which we believe are key to our customer success now and into the future. In our view, we're the only company that can deliver on that integrated architectural approach. And frankly, our momentum reflects the fundamental role the network is playing in the technology transitions in the market, including software, silicon, cloud, mobility, BYOD, security, Internet of Everything. We believe we're well positioned as the pace of these transitions increases because we have accelerated our own speed of innovation to stay ahead of those transitions. And we help our customers capitalize on these transitions to meet their business goals. Let me talk to you about some of these Cisco Catalyst innovations that make our product more compelling in the marketplace. The first one is Cisco Converged Access. Cisco Converged Access is something unique to the Catalyst product line. It's unique to Cisco. If you look at the way wireless networks have been deployed and built over the last decade or so, they're generally controller-based. All wireless traffic being tunneled through the network to the core, where wireless policies are put on at the core, and then at the core it's distributed into the data center or to the external feeds, wherever it needs to go. But it makes sense, right, with a wireless to have some sort of controller so that your individual access points aren't operating in a vacuum. There's some brain coordinating all of these and making sure that people seamlessly roam and power levels aren't set too high, too low. So it makes sense to have a single brain and have all that operations go back to the center. But the downside is, how do I have the same network and the same experience whether I'm on the wired side or the wireless side? In that architecture, traditional wireless architecture, I can't have that. All my wireless traffic is tunneled to the data center, and then from the data center is the first place you have QoS policies put on, or anything else. So if I want to have something that right at the first point of entry into the network, right at that edge building, that I put some sort of special QoS policies. Let's say I want to ensure that guests, I have a good number of guest users, but I never want them using more than 5% of my bandwidth, wireless bandwidth, wired bandwidth, period. In a traditional architecture, I wouldn't have a way to do that because all my guest traffic is tunneled with my employee traffic all the way to the core. Yeah, once it's at the core and at that controller, I can decouple it and say, okay, that guest guy only gets 5% and my employees get 95%. But on the journey from the access edge to the core, it's just fair open wireless and I can't put individual policies. Now with converged access, what we've done in the Cisco Catalyst line is we actually put a controller in every single access switch. And so we still maintain a brain centralized to do all those radio resource management functions that I was talking about earlier. But as far as now being able to make an SSID, that has guaranteed 5% and no more, regardless if there's 30 people on it and only one person on your employee VLAN, yeah, I can do that. And I'm never going to give somebody an advantage when they unplug wireless and go, when they unplug wired and go wireless or vice versa. They're going to get the same experience right at the access edge because that policy that's applied on that switch applies equally to the wired clients and the wireless clients. Breakthrough innovation only in Cisco. It certainly helps meet the first demand of the business in the mobility. The first one is Cisco Converged Access. Cisco Converged Access is something unique to the Catalyst product line. It's unique to Cisco. If you look at the way wireless networks have been deployed and built over the last decade or so, they're generally controller-based. All wireless traffic being tunneled through the network to the core, where wireless policies are put on at the core, and then at the core it's distributed into the data center or to the external feeds, wherever it needs to go. But it makes sense, right, with a wireless to have some sort of controller so that your individual access points aren't operating in a vacuum. There's some brain coordinating all of these and making sure that people seamlessly roam and power levels aren't set too high, too low. So it makes sense to have a single brain and have all that operations go back to the center. But the downside is, how do I have the same network and the same experience whether I'm on the wired side or the wireless side? In that architecture, traditional wireless architecture, I can't have that. All my wireless traffic is tunneled to the data center, and then from the data center is the first place you have QoS policies put on, or anything else. So if I want to have something that right at the first point of entry into the network, right at that edge building, that I put some sort of special QoS policies. Let's say I want to ensure that guests, I have a good number of guest users, but I never want them using more than 5% of my bandwidth, wireless bandwidth, wired bandwidth, period. In a traditional architecture, I wouldn't have a way to do that because all my guest traffic is tunneled with my employee traffic all the way to the core. Yeah, once it's at the core and at that controller, I can decouple it and say, okay, that guest guy only gets 5% and my employees get 95%. But on the journey from the access edge to the core, it's just fair open wireless and I can't put individual policies. Now with converged access, what we've done in the Cisco Catalyst line is we actually put a controller in every single access switch. And so we still maintain a brain centralized to do all those radio resource management functions that I was talking about earlier. But as far as now being able to make an SSID that has guaranteed 5% and no more, regardless if there's 30 people on it and only one person on your employee VLAN, yeah, I can do that. And I'm never going to give somebody an advantage when they unplug wireless and go, when they unplug wired and go wireless or vice versa. They're going to get the same experience right at the access edge because that policy that's applied on that switch applies equally to the wired clients and the wireless clients. Breakthrough innovation only in Cisco. It certainly helps meet the first demand of the business in the mobility. Another feature that's unique to Cisco is EnergyWise. The network is pervasive, it's everywhere. Why should I have to control energy on a device-by-device basis? You already have this intelligence pervasive throughout your enterprise. How about laptops? How about PCs? How about access points, phones? Asking the network, hey, Mr. Network, what is the state of energy right now, energy use right now? Is the local utility having some sort of emergency and we have to shut down our energy use? Or just generally, is it 2 o'clock in the morning and nobody's here, so there's no point to keep all the lights on, all the LCDs glowing or something like that? Maybe a phone screen, maybe it can switch from color to black and white at 2 o'clock in the morning if I don't want to shut down altogether because, I need to have phones for 911 in the middle of the night, who knows what. But there doesn't have to be this all on-off. The network has intelligence, and I can glean as an endpoint what I want to do based on what the network is telling me. For one example on EnergyWise, how compelling this can be to the business, I was involved in a fairly large deal north of $20 million a couple years ago. And I thought that was a lot. I mean, for this particular school district, that was a lot for them to spend. That was, a lot for their budget, everything else like that. Until one day I was roaming the halls and I saw the energy management office. And they post their charts outside their window of what their spend is on energy. And would you believe for that first week of August, or for that first few weeks of August when school comes back in, they spend $1 million a week in energy costs total. So now I'm talking about, now I can go as IT to the table with the superintendents, everything else like that, and say, hey, at least we have these 3,000 access points. I don't need to have all 3,000 of them blaring out, screaming at 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning when, maybe the only thing that's going to be there are kids that just want to hack into the network or something like that. I can turn off whatever it is, 2,500 of them every night, and save a little bit on my energy costs while still providing services. And it's not much maybe on a one-day basis, but over time, hey, I am showing that IT is contributing to that goal of the business, because energy is still a huge business goal, business driver. Again, unique to Catalyst, unique to Cisco. Cisco also has several of these features that we call under the Turn It On program. Why do we say turn it on? Because by default they might not ship as enabled on the products, but they're there on the products. Cost to implement them? Usually zero. Usually it's just having somebody go in there and decide what features are compelling to their business and turn them on. Let me give you an example of some of these. First one, a large one, is application visibility and control. So right now we have this attitude that, the network is slow, the network is causing a problem. How much can I really see in with the network into a specific application? I don't want to know that the internet's slow. I want to know that Facebook is slow. I want to know that my particular SAP application, my Salesforce application hosted in my private cloud, that's slow. And I want to see a response chart over time of just that application. We can do that now. We can do that now with Layer 7 intelligence built into our switches. Many other things you see in there, traffic simulators, service level agreement, IP SLA monitors, making sure that things are up and functioning as appropriate. Flexible net flow. There's many things that we can do under the umbrella of application visibility and control to give the IT teams good knowledge, good dashboard knowledge of what's going on in their environment right now so that they can have value to the business. Another one is quality of service with MediaNet or MediaTrace. If I have an environment where I've got a voice over IP phone call and it's dropping out or it's scratchy or anything else like that, again, instead of just saying, the network and approaching it from a very large top layer path, I can say, if I have a Catalyst switching environment, I can say path by path, okay, I know this particular phone is here and I know my gateway is over there. I want you to trace the path all the way from point A to point B and tell me what the QoS profiles are, where if packets are dropping, where they're dropping along that path. And so it gives me very high level of link by link understanding. Okay. I see the congestion is in this particular output queue of this particular 1 gigabit uplink where it needs to be a 10 gigabit uplink. That kind of knowledge to the IT staff so they can quickly, get rid of fuzzy communication and replace it with good solid communication, not by just throwing something against the wall and seeing what sticks, but by analyzing specifics. Another one that we do that's becoming very popular in our devices going forward is with programmability, EEM programmability, XML, and everything that's coming along with software-defined networking. So the idea is that instead of creating a network and then having application just right on top of it, having the application say, okay, Mr. Network, you need to give me this much bandwidth at this particular time of day from point A to point B. I need to have these particular quality of service profiles. And the network receives it and goes, yeah, I can provision that for you. I can do that. That's some of the stuff that we have integrated into our custom silicon, our UADP chips on the high-end Catalyst line for software-defined networking that other vendors simply just can't do. They just have to use custom off-the-shelf silicon, and what they have to use are open source programs to do these things, which end up being slower or don't get a full feature set they want to. We are designing our product from the ground up to be able to take care of this environment, whether it be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So a lot of people want to think about things just in terms of CapEx. How much does it cost? Yeah, there probably are cheaper switches out there somewhere. But I'd submit to you that if you just look at the price of the switch, then you're just looking at this CapEx, you're just looking at the tip of the iceberg. Really, if you think about OpEx, which includes things like the fact that our product lines are typically run rates on some of these devices go 7, 10 years. Our Catalyst 6500 line, a device you bought in 1999, is still very valid today and has a roadmap up through 2020. So 21-year life cycle on some of these switches. If I don't have to spend over every 3 years, every 4 years to refresh my network, if I'm getting the visibility I need to get through application visibility and control and things like that, and smart operations, and I don't have to have such a large staff, my total cost of ownership is much lower, and that's a bigger part of this puzzle. But even more than that, if I'm doing all the things that I've talked about into a comprehensive architecture, between the MediaNet, the AVC, the EEM, with network programmability, all those types of things, and I'm doing it from a top down because I have a platform that allows me to do all these things, then I can achieve cost savings well beyond just TCO. I've got synergies now between all the areas of IT through the network. That's very, very powerful. So, going back to our little exercise before, what is this? Have you thought about what this particular widget is, what this particular company is, that a lot of people probably, you and I included, want to spend maybe 20, 30, 40% more each day? Well, it's coffee. It's coffee, and the company on the left is McDonald's, the company on the right is Starbucks. So why? Why do we do this? I submit that it's not just about the coffee. It's, you have to have a product. You have to have a good quality product, and that's what the Catalyst product line is, a good, consistent quality product. But it's not just about that. What is it about? It's really about the total experience. Everything else that comes with the coffee and everything else that you can potentially do. So in a Cisco world, replace that coffee with a switch. And if you look at ours, ours is about $4,700 on state contract pricing, where somebody like HP, who has 4 times the number of employees that we have, has been in business 3 times as long, and sells maybe 20% cheaper for a similar 24-port switch. But we outsell them $15 billion to $2.5 billion. We outsell them a good, 6 to 1. And why is that? I'm sure you can figure it out, because it's not just about the switch. You have to have products that work reliably, work consistently. Sure, that's the bar. But if you really want to achieve these great total cost of ownerships and beyond total cost of ownership savings and have a platform that really drives the business, then it's about the architecture. You got to be thinking that way. So now we've talked about the innovations that address the technical challenges that meet the business requirements. Now let's take a step down and talk about the products that give you those innovations, specifically in the Catalyst product line. So starting at the bottom, the first one is the 2960. We have 4 models of these, and everything down from the basic 2960 Plus, which is a simple 10100 switch. So for those customers that say, hey, I need all the manageability, I need the architecture, I need the platform, but this particular part of my network is never going to be more than 100 meg, for whatever reason. Personally, I think those guys are a little bit short-sighted, but hey, we have a product in the marketplace to meet that need. Full 802.3AF PoE, so you can get 30 watts per port, drive all your new access points, your new phones, anything like that. Moving up, we have the Dash SF switch, which introduces a 40 gig flex stack, so you can stack these up. And also IPv6, which is a big top of mind as we go to the Internet of Things. First hop security in IPv6. People don't understand that when you turn on IPv6, you're potentially just having something out there that if you don't turn on, you don't secure it right, then anybody can plug in, anybody can own your IPv6 infrastructure. So we give you some mitigation factors. Again, security has to be in at the lowest levels of these products, or like I said earlier, it's a non-starter. We also have the Dash X, which gives 10 gig uplinks, SFP plus uplinks, NetFlow Lite, so you can do some of those application visibility and control things I talked about earlier, and even the Dash XR if you want to get into layer 3 features. It comes with an IP Lite feature set, redundant power supplies. Moving on up, the next thing I really need to talk about before another platform is the chip, the Unified Access ASIC that we have built. This is critical to unified access, wired and wireless being converged access. So our chip does CAPWAP tunneling right in the first termination switch. Does all your flexible net flow. QoS happens at the ASIC for wired and wireless, line rate, equal performance. Components in there that a programmer can take advantage of for SDN, like a flex parser that enables you software features. And it's used across multiple platforms. The next two switches I'm going to show you, the 3850 and the 4500 SUP8E, and also it's used in our new wireless controllers. So here's the first one, the 3850, that is built on the Unified Access data processor. It is our flagship stackable switch, where on a switch, I can do 50 APs, 2,000 clients per stack, terminate my CAPWAP, full PoE plus every single port, line rate all ports. Whatever kind of QoS, I've got modular QoS framework for CLI, very granular. I can do security group tags. Again, security built in, lowest level of the product. More than just ACLs, defining a security group tag on ingress, defining people, so maybe my employees, my contractors, different types of employees like engineers, accountants, all those types of things, and then a security group tag on my servers. This is an accountant server, this is an engineering server. And where those two meet, I can make allow, deny type decisions. Built into the product, security, next generation. 2,000 clients per stack, field replaceable fans, power supplies, and the innovation of stack power, where if I have a stack of 4 of these, I only need a couple power supplies. I don't need to buy 8 power supplies for 4 switches. Maybe I only need 3 power supplies total because the stack draws power from those good working power supplies into the chassis that don't have the power supplies. Cisco innovation saves power, top of mind from an operations standpoint. I don't have to spare a lot of power supplies, worry about the power supplies breaking. And from a management standpoint, I've reduced my power spend, I have reduced my OpEx. Going one step further, we can also do modular, our flagship modular switch, the 4500 with the SUP8E, built on the same Unified Access ASIC that's in the 3850, and got a lot of innovations in here. So first of all, redundant power supplies, and power supplies up to 9,000 watts. So you can really stack all kinds of cameras, access points, phones, terminals, all that kind of stuff, and not have to worry about power redundancy out in some cube somewhere or in some areas. You can centralize it. Do all your power redundancy and power backups in one central closet. Much cleaner, much better quality of service to the business. Redundant fans, line cards that have dual supervisors, virtual switching systems. So you can take 2 of these, combine them into one large chassis effectively from a network perspective, and not do spanning trees where you're taking half your links down all the time in a blocking state, but actually use the full bandwidth when everything's up, and then if and when you have a failure of a chassis of supervisor, you're losing half the bandwidth. That's it. Unified, and also this platform is our first to take advantage of Cisco UPoE, 60 watts per port. Now at 60 watts, you're getting into the part where you can start potentially powering MacBook Airs or small data terminals. So that's a huge savings. Just run an Ethernet cable to a lab, you're done. You're done for the next 10 years with that because you don't need to ever wire it again for power or anything else like that. Your VDI can be back home in your data center, and you are done. You don't have to touch that thing for a long, long time. Moving a step up from the edge switching back into more of the distribution core layer, we have our 6500 line, again introduced in '99. New innovations all the times in here where you see we're talking about 40 gig, 10 gig fiber. We have innovations coming out in the sky for 100 gig uplinks. But fiber to the desktop, not a problem. Service modules for if you want to do wireless controlling right in the core switches, or network analysis, their NAM modules, all those types of things built right into the flagship switching portfolio. And finally, the Catalyst Instant Access client. So a lot of people are worried about operations, about having so many different points of management. Well, what if I treat this 48-port switch like a remote line card? It doesn't operate on its own, but it has to get its identity from an upstream 6500 or Catalyst 6800. Then I only have one point of management that can potentially manage thousands upon thousands of ports, saving me operations, reducing my operation expenditures. All right, so those are the innovations, and so that really drives home the point that Cisco's true value is not just in what we make, but it's really what we make possible, how we lower that TCO and achieve architectures that drive value beyond even total cost of ownership that other companies just simply can't have. We are the network. We own the network. That is our core. That is our DNA. And Cisco Catalyst switching platforms are the most successful in the industry, and our custom ASICs drive innovation and provide solutions for our customers that give our customers a competitive advantage in the marketplace. And that's why so many businesses partner with Cisco. So again, what we talked again today about was the Catalyst switching value proposition, why Cisco. We started with the business requirements. What's top of mind for the business? Again, mobility, security, things like that IT has to provide. Then IT's technical challenges to providing those demands of the business. And then the innovations that we do to address those technical challenges. And finally, the products that we package those innovations into that you can consume and make the foundation of your network, or foundation of your business. Again, I'm Neville Aga. Thank you very much for your time and your attention, and have a great day.